And ask that the roll be called.
Chair Craven,
Here.
Director Nauman. Here. Director Schwabauer.
Here.
Okay. We hope the others will arrive soon. But we do have a quorum. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have the agenda review, please?
Yes, Chair Craven, we are going to suggest to you that item number 3 either be pulled or that your board vote about doing this in public. We've been advised by agency counsel that you really can't have a secret ballot at a board meeting, and that we either have to do this public or we'll have to call a special. You'll have to do the discussion about the nominees and your selection publicly, or we'll have to do as we did last year, which is a special phone-in conference call meeting. And then item number 5, agency counsel advises us that that should be pulled and delayed until the next meeting due to some problems.
Okay. Why don't we make the decision on number 3 when we get there? Is that okay with you? Okay. So that is the agenda review. Is there any objection to pulling item number 5 till the next meeting?
No.
Okay. We will do that. Public comments. This is the time that the board hears from members of the public on items that are not on the agenda. Didn't have any cards, but we will certainly hear you, Henry. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Chair Craven. This is Henry Gromlich with Cayugas Municipal Water District. I want to report to the board that the Las Posas Users Group met this morning and began talking about the basin-specific management plan for the Las Posas Basin. And we certainly appreciate your board's action at the last meeting to enact an emergency ordinance. We had a very good discussion, and we're in the process of collecting the data and propose that we will be reporting to the Strategic Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committee, and at milestone points reporting to your board on the progress of putting together that basin management plan.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm Mike Solomon with United Water Conservation District. I thought I'd give the GMA board, staff, and everybody around an update on the Freeman diversion and the lawsuit with Caltrout. We weren't able to attend last month's meeting because we were down in federal court doing some mediation with Caltrout and others. And just happy to report, as you saw in the paper, we did reach a stipulation where we had a settlement at least for this migration period that goes through May 31st. The paper misquoted what the settlement was. We did not give up all the flows that were recommended. We gave up ramping flows, which we think are waters that our customers can live with. The flows that they wanted for the smolts, we didn't negotiate out. We still have those for this migration period. So at this point, the preliminary injunction that was filed against United and the Bureau of Reclamation for this migration period has been pulled off the courts. The lawsuit is still out there. I met with Caltrout yesterday, and we're trying to settle that outside of court at this point. So at this point, I would say United and the Freeman diversion, our position is improved measurably to where we've been over the last few months. So unless there's any questions, things are looking in a more positive position right now. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that you didn't, that the paper misquoted because I got to thinking, why did they settle this way?
Yeah. Well, there were clearly two flows in the reasonable and prudent alternatives that we were asked to do. One of them we refused to because we felt it was a problem. And in fact, a study that National Marine Fisheries has done through a peer advisor has shown that our opinion on that other flow was correct. And we're now negotiating with NIMS to try to figure out how do we deal with it in a different way, a more positive way. So all that being said, I'm meeting with NIMS this afternoon after this meeting, met with Caltrout. We're on a much more positive track as far as minimizing the impact on United's operation while still protecting the fish. So
both sides compromise?
Pardon me?
So both sides compromise on that side?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else come forward for public comments, we will move on to board member comments. Seeing no one raise their hand, we will move to approval of the minutes of the meeting of February 25th.
Dave, your hair is also.
Did the minutes look okay to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. If no one else wants to, I'll second that. All in favor? Motion carries. No objection, motion carries. How's that?
Well, I wasn't here last time.
That's interesting, and I don't know how the attorney here would say, but usually they say you don't have to have been present to vote. Agency biannual financial audit reports. Is there a motion to
That's a consent item as well?
Right, is there a motion to receive and file?
Yes, I so approve. Second.
The motion to receive and file the agency biannual report. Any objection? Okay, motion carries. Well, I'm glad you made it. Okay, action item. The first action item is the John K. Flynn Award, and we had, it was explained to us earlier that we could either pull this and deal with it the way we dealt with it last year, or we could go ahead and deal with it now and make the decision by a public vote. So, is there a preference?
I would recommend that you do it by phone conference. I think that's
Have a
probably,
special phone meeting?
I think that's the more
I
appropriate
think
way.
that's consistent with what happened
Okay.
previously.
That's what we've done in the past. Dr. Kelly? Okay. Then if there's no objection, we will pull item 3, and that will be the topic of a special phone meeting that will be arranged at a later date. The next is the work plan update. Item number 4. Could we have that, please? Staff report.
Good afternoon. Chair Craven, board members, members of the public. Gerhard Hubner, Watershed Protection District, providing you a work plan update today. I'm waiting for the presentation to come up. Well, I'll just
Well, in the meantime, we have a
jump
nice
right
picture.
into it. As you know, back in June of 2008, your board adopted the agency's recommended final fiscal year 2008-2009 work plan. The tasks outlined in the adopted budget contained core tasks as well as additional work plan tasks. At your last meeting in February, we provided an update, and this report is just a continuation of those reports. So the first item, and if you'll look, we also, of course, have a staff report for you, a board letter as well for this item. So my presentation today will follow that outline. So in terms of irrigation efficiency program evaluation, we did send a letter to Dr. Ben Faber at UC Extension requesting that he look at the scientific validity of the existing irrigation efficiency formula. So we'll be working with Dr. Faber on coming up with some questions for him to answer in terms of how the formula and improvements that can be made in that regard. On the unpaid pump charge account collections, we sent a letter to Mr. Mike Platter requesting, you can see the amounts, quite large, $1,551,910.71. This was for water that he did, looks like there's an error in there, has not paid our extraction fee. We sent that letter on February 24th, and he has 30 days to remit payment.
And that was up yesterday. Did we receive it?
Dave? We have not.
Thank you.
If I could ask a question, the $1,551,000, is that just what he would have been paying? Is that the extraction fee, or is this penalties?
I believe it also includes a substantial portion of it is the surcharge.
Okay.
The 725, or calculated at 725.
So it's the surcharge and the extraction fee. The surcharge because it's over,
So much larger.
larger than what it was. But no fees and penalties yet assessed to this?
I don't believe so. Did we? Surcharge amount.
When you say surcharge, is that interest and penalties? Or is that a separate charge? That's a separate charge for being over, is that right? That's right. Okay, so in addition to this, there is the potential of interest and penalties?
Maybe you should come up so it can get on the tape.
For the record, Rick Beergoots, Fox Canyon GMA. Unfortunately, I don't have the letter in front of me, but it does include the surcharge amount of the $725 an acre foot for that time frame, plus the $4 an acre foot for that time frame. And you asked whether or not it has interest, and the interest at 1.5% and the penalties at 1.5% added to it. I can run back and check for you. I think it probably does.
Don't run back and check, just
Okay.
let us know next time, or let us know by email after this.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Rick, if you would, in the absence of a meter, and now in the absence of an orchard, what did you use for your calculations of the acre feet consumed?
We used Mr. Plater's estimate.
But I understand he'd submitted 2 different submissions of those estimates. Do you take the greater or the lesser?
Actually, here's what I recall. Initially he submitted an estimate saying he was using about 10 acre feet per acre per year, which was awfully high.
Right.
And but he was pretty insistent that he wanted us to use that in order to develop a historical.
So we're going to hang him by his own folly?
It's the best information I had.
No, I know.
And what we did do is instead of going back many, many years, which is what he had requested, we truncated it at 3 years. The advice.
But I just can't imagine that actually got put on the ground.
I
That's my other
understand,
point.
I feel the same way. It was just the best info I had.
We had asked him for his records. No records were ever provided, and this was the best information that we had to move forward in terms of demanding.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit predatory.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. We also
Oh,
draft-
sorry, one more.
Just out of curiosity, I'm just wondering, what time frame was the well drilled, and how far back, and is there any historical on that? I mean, I'm familiar with the location, and that's why I'm kind of curious. I know he didn't plant the trees. I'm wondering if there was any other information that we had with regards to irrigation or anything, usage.
The first time we became aware of the well on the property was when he had applied for a permit to drill a well. And Dave, do you remember when that was?
About 3 years ago.
Okay, about 3 years ago. And in looking into that, we realized that he'd already had a well on the property and had for many years. And we didn't have a record of that well either within the GMA or the county well records. So it could have been a very old well. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
But would it not have been more appropriate to use an average historical amount rather than this 10 acre-feet number that he gave you?
Well, we're not having a hearing here, and these are things we might discuss during a hearing, so maybe we should have a real discussion of this.
Right. Madam Chairman, I asked Rick earlier today if he'd ever picked up a turnip and squeezed it hard enough for blood to come out, and he said no. And I don't think he can exsanguinate one, and I see this money never coming here.
Okay, well, if there's an appeal of this or something, it will come to us, so maybe is that correct? Maybe we should not discuss it further while it's just a non-action item. Okay.
We also sent out 5 other letters that, or we've drafted 5 other letters, and they're under review with the executive officer, and this is related to the unpaid surcharge amount as well. Moving to the unreported or unregistered wells, we've also drafted up 10 letters and sent those to owner-operators requesting that those wells be registered with the agency. And meter calibration. On March 3rd and March 5th, we sent out 329 third and final notice letters to owner and operators that hadn't responded to previous written accounts. Since then, we've gotten 55 written response. We've also, with these written responses, included results, whether they were inactive, domestic, or destroyed. We've had, you can see quite a few folks contact us, 85, that they're working on complying with the requirements. 7 of the letters were undeliverable or marked as not owned or operated. So we have approximately 273 unresolved. The compliance rate is 74%, and we're proceeding to get that number higher, either working through the folks with their telephone calls, further letters, or we may be coming to your board at some point with other enforcement actions. So that concludes my report today. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'd just like to add that you've done a great job reaching out to everybody and just keep everything moving forward like you have.
Appreciate that, and I want to acknowledge Mr. Pernaro. He's the front line in receiving those phone calls. So
you can still sit down, Dave. You're doing good.
Thank you. Okay, item number 5. Is there a motion to receive and file the work plan update?
So
move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any objection? So ordered. Item number 5 has been pulled and will be put on the next agenda, which gets us down to the executive officer's report.
Nothing outstanding to report.
Okay, is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
It's a motion and a second to receive and file executive officers' reports consisting of 7 items, and that has us into recessing to a closed session.
Can you duly note the time for Lynn Mulhart, please?
Okay, so could I ask the attorney to state the terms under which we will be recessing to a closed session?
Yes, the board will be meeting in closed session to discuss one anticipated litigation item pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision C.
Do we anticipate an announcement when we finish?
It's possible, but I do not anticipate one.
Okay. We will recess to a closed session at this time.